Good morning, YouTube. It's Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. here on the East Coast. We have got Bitcoin priced in at 83.01 as per Bybit. By the way, guys, if you don't use Bybit, it's an exchange where you can trade perpetual futures like the long and short contracts, just like you can on BitMEX and other exchanges. For me, Bybit has worked really well. So if you want to try it out, my referral link is below. Okay. Let's get started with the price action on smaller time frames. Today we're going to talk about a lot of things, so I do want you to pay attention to how the markets are shaping up as per the smaller time frames and how they're looking as per the larger ones, and we'll also compare that to the equity markets. Okay. So first things first. On the 15-minute chart, I drew this out real quick because you can see this level right here, 83.60. That's a key level that the bears have been holding price under, as you can see right here. This was a quick sort of push up, maybe a squeeze, and then price tanked down again. And the bears have been doing a really fantastic job at just pushing price under this level. Okay, so what they've really done so far over the last few hours is this. Okay, we had this wick go into 8,400, this one to 8,425, and then they're pressuring price lower and lower with kind of this lower high structure. Okay, this is as per the 15-minute chart. You could see the RSI is really just moving sideways on the 15-minute. Stoch RSI is overbought. That means for now it could have a bit more downside to go. All right. Now, as per the 1 hour chart, okay, and I'll show you guys that 1 hour over here. Here are some simple levels to watch out for. Okay, and I want to show you guys the structure because it's so sort of important to look at it this way. Okay, so first things first, way back here at the beginning of October, we saw this descending trend line movement holding price down, right? And it's mostly kind of like this, where every time price would hit it, it was so easy to kind of short this thing. Every time price came to it, shorting it, for at least 1 to 3% was an easy move. Okay, it was more favorable, right? And then we pushed up out of this, right here. When we pushed up out of this area, consolidated and pushed back up, we're now sort of doing the same thing, except we had this big sort of scam wick right here. This was due to a big short squeeze that was incoming anyway, and it leads back all the way to the initial pullback from this drop that we had from like 9.5k or from 9.5k all the way down to about 8,000. We had this push back up. This created an opportunity for shorts to get in, and then we dumped down, right? So what this wick right here, these two candles did, is it helped squeeze out those shorts who had stops sitting up here. And once we did that, okay, the bulls did their job of stopping out those positions, but the bears also did their job of pushing prices down, right, further and further, not letting prices come back up. So over here we had a lower high at 84.50, and then this previous consolidation that you see, all this area right here, you can see price keeps hitting it, and we're also doing this bouncy ball effect kind of, right? We're just creating sort of lower and lower highs, and then eventually we'll just go sideways and then kind of rip right through it. Okay, so in our community, actually, we are in a short position right around 83.50 or so. We got into a short, I forget exactly where it was, but I think it was somewhere around up here when this rejection candle was starting up. Okay, so with that being said, all right, we're now into some nice profit. Okay, now one other level you should be watching is this right here, the monthly open, which is around 82.97. So let's just say $8,300, right? Notice how price has again been trying to stay above this consolidation, but also above the monthly open. Okay, so staying above the monthly open, this key area is going to be critical for Bitcoin if it wants to sort of hold price in this area, in this green block. If we start bleeding down, this local consolidation support will probably just push us back up to maybe 8,300, and then we'll probably drop down further, because this is really the last remaining support before way down here, which is a higher time frame support of about 78.50. Okay, So now you understand why if we don't push up and out of here, so over the next, say 6 hours or so, or 12 hours in this daily candle that we have today, if we don't push out of this right here, we're more likely to go down, and down at least to 81.25, which is this area right here, the low of this, before we had a big push up, or all the way down to about $7,800 and some change. Okay, so those are really the areas that you want to watch. All right, again, if you are not part of the Cryptosomniac Advantage community, come join cryptosomniac.com. Why my internet's so slow. Products page, and then you can buy my technical analysis course. Like I said, you can get access to 7 free days into all these locked channels if you do buy this technical analysis course, or you can buy this Advantage program and come sort of test out your trading abilities, our information education, the setups that we provide in our community to be able to pay off your membership. Okay, and then let us know how we're doing. As you can see in these gains reviews, people are really enjoying our community, and they're making some great gains, as you can see, right? I promise you I'm not paying anyone to write these reviews. These are all people in our community. They're very active, they like our program, and they're really enjoying being part of our community by learning and growing and sharing ideas back and forth. Okay. All right. So another thing that I wanted to talk about is the funding. If you're not familiar with how this perpetual futures funding works, basically, when the funding is in the positive territory, which it was yesterday, right? As you can see, this green bar pushing up right there. When funding is in the positive territory, it basically means the longs are paying the shorts. Okay, so that means there's a higher chance for price to dump in these situations. Okay, because the longs do not want to be paying aggressive amounts of money to keep their positions open for shorts. Okay, I'm sorry, for holding their longs open. Okay, so and when you start looking at this funding ratio, and you start looking at the historical context of it, more often than not, when the funding is skewed to one side or the other, so for example, if it's more on the positive side, prices have a higher chance of dumping. When the funding is on the negative side, meaning the shorts are then paying the longs, there is a higher possibility that the price could push back up, because this helps squeeze out one party or the other, right? Because if you're paying for funding and the funding is excessively high for one side of the position, and prices keep pushing up further and further beyond your entry point, that means you're in the negative. So you don't want to be holding on to a negative position while also paying funding, so you get squeezed out of your position. And this is why we see these kinds of wicks right here, this and this, all this happen due to funding too. Funding is just one criteria, obviously, but it's just something important to keep an eye on. Okay. Now, aside from that, I want to sort of do this. I did this last week about a Wyckoff, right? I said that there's a possibility that we could be in an accumulation phase of Wyckoff, okay, over here. So if we start looking at Wyckoff as per this right here, all right, so here we have, the big drop off that we have, preliminary support, selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test, all this sideways chop that we had, and then this could have been your spring right there. So all this stuff you can see, this was your selling climax, preliminary support, or I'm sorry, this is your selling climax down here. This is probably your automatic rally. This could be secondary test, or this could be a spring. I want to say this is your secondary test. I think this one is more likely to be a spring. And then we had a test, and then, last point of supply, back out to the edge of the creek right here, last point of supply. And then we had the show of strength up here. So I think the show of strength could be argued that it was over here. This could be pulling back you know, this is the backup right here, and then we're now looking to push back up. However, okay, this is where things get interesting. All right, so if we go in deeper right here, and if prices kind of keep falling down here, all right, this basically negates the Wyckoff accumulation schematic. Why? Because we will have already, you know, sort of broken down past the support and resistance areas right here, which is technically supposed to be 84.50. So what would have been good is, you know, if we went like this and then we consolidated right here, and then we're ready to push back up. But the fact that we're consolidating now under previous resistance, which is this white line, this is not a good sign. And this is why this Wyckoff schematic doesn't really hold as much weight to me. Okay, but it is something that I want to keep an eye on. All right, now there's another schematic that I want you to keep an eye on. It's this, which is the distribution. Okay, so we had, you know, this big sort of movement right over here. Let's see, we had this, you know, big sort of distribution right here all the way up here. Okay, I want to show you guys this. All right, and then we had basically a breakdown, which is down here. And now we're moving sideways, which could, in my opinion, be argued as this area right here as a redistribution, okay? Or we could be right here, and we could potentially be pushing back up for a throwback, excuse me. And so the throwback would be something like this, right? It would take us back to this level up here around the area where this entire price structure broke down. Okay, and so we'd be going like this and then ready to push back down. And that would create your Wyckoff distribution and this redistribution schematic. Okay, so then we'd be in the throwback phase, and then we'd be dumping even lower. Okay, I personally think we're actually over here, which is the redistribution, and I think we're ready to, you know, get marked down even more. Just because, I mean, it's kind of fairly obvious, like this sideways chop really just seems like this redistribution to me. I personally think it's tough to make it all the way back to 9,400 or even 9,000. I mean, it is possible, but it's just really hard because that would mean that you would have to basically break above this 200 moving average, which is over here. I'm going to turn this on real quick, okay? And these are all the moving averages. There's that 200 right there. Okay, so there's that red, you know, right there, that 200 moving average. And notice that all the other moving averages, which is the 50, the 100, and the 128, they've all started to basically slope down, right? This is not a good sign, especially, you know, when your lower moving averages like the 25, 50, 75 start sloping down. It's time for at least a deeper correction, which obviously Bitcoin has already gone through. But now it means that, you know, now that they're sloping down and we're below the 200 moving average, it means that we could have potentially more downside, because you typically don't fall under the 200 moving average and then consolidate under it just to break back up, you know, really strongly. You typically do this as a distribution and then boom. Okay, so something to keep an eye on. All right, now another website obviously that I look at is Skew. I've told you guys about this many times. You go to skew.com, analytics. All right, and this is sort of my favorite subsection of Skew, which is the Bitcoin futures section. The other one is I like is spreads, liquidity, and heat maps. I don't really care about the other ones down here. This is taking a minute. Okay, it looks like the website's kind of slow right now, but anyway, really great website to look at, specifically the BitMEX XBT USD open interest chart right here. Okay, you know, keep an eye on that, because open interest basically talks about, you know, who is interested or how many people are interested in what levels, whether it's longs or shorts. Okay, and for the most part, we've peaked at $1 billion for open interest, but then we haven't touched that open interest level since I think August. So it's basically implies that there's not a lot of people who are interested in trading at these levels. They might be interested in either trading higher, meaning that open interest might rise up when price gets to maybe 10,000, or open interest might ramp up again if price gets to say 6,000 and some change. Okay, so it's a very important sort of graph and a figure to keep in mind, because when you don't have as much liquidity in the market and not a lot of open interest, you kind of just get this chop right here, this whole lot of sideways movement, and then you basically see wicks like this, right? Wicks right here, right there, right there, right there, and that sort of implies the lack of liquidity in the market, and basically the bots and the algorithms basically hunting for liquidity, and that's why you get these wicks on either side. Okay, so this is why for the most part in this market we've been trading the chop, but trading it very carefully, not going too aggressive in any position. We did have some really nice positions in Link the other day, and we closed those off. Let me see where Link was. I think we got in around like 197, way over here, down here in this consolidation, and we sold off around like 221 or 230. But this thing went all the way to about like 290. There's no way to predict that. I basically wanted to sell, the resistance between this block right here and this high. I didn't really want to gamble on this thing going higher, so we got some nice gains out of it. And then another position that we took, I want to show you guys, is BNB BTC. Okay, and this thing I saw breaking out of its falling wedge way back here, even on the retest. So we're looking, very positive in our position right here. You can see we're up about a good 14%. Okay, so this was a fantastic position that we got into. If you don't believe me, I put this up. I want to show you guys BNB. I put this up on October 8th, so that's about 7 days ago, as you can see, right? So if we count back the candles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I basically posted the position on this candle right here, or actually technically this one, because this is the 8th right here. So you could see we're doing a heck of a lot better in this position, really doing great. And then XRP is one position I really want to talk about. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. Here's the thing about XRP. Okay, so we did sort of bounce off some key levels right here. All right, I'm going to mark this out. I'm going to actually mark this out on a monthly time frame, just so it's easier to see. Okay, and the reason I'm mentioning this is because I think everyone has sort of forgotten about XRP, and I think it's finally coming back to life a little bit, because it posted a decent monthly candle right here in September, and now it looks like the October candle is looking decent as well. This is definitely a position that you want to keep an eye on, because I think it could get to over here, which is almost 50% gain right here, or all the way over here. And the reason I mentioned this high target right now, because it's very possible that XRP just pumps crazy in 1 month and goes all the way up here. It's done it before, right? It's like this, like this, like this, so, and even like this, as you can see. So just something to keep in mind. If you really do like XRP, you might get another selling opportunity way up here, anywhere between 47.21 and about 9,400. So just keep an eye on this, because it does look like a really great chart, to be honest. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let me talk about the stock market real quick. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Again, we were breaking out of this falling wedge. The bulls have still not been able to break over the 3,000 point ceiling that's been put in. This is now your gravestone doji with a lower high. Okay, so this was your high, lower high, and you now might be creating another lower high. So the stock markets have already sort of shown signs of weaknesses for the past couple months, since we've been mentioning them since July over here, because of this breakdown. And now you're seeing signs of weakness again, although there were some talks about the U.S. and China trade deal, so do keep an eye on that. But I really don't think anything is going to come out of it. I think the central banks intervening just to be able to hold up the stock market is just not the healthy way. Though I do believe that when the Fed is intervening, you don't really also want to bet against that. So unless you start seeing a big breakdown, at least past, say, these levels right here, I'm going to put this wick up here too in it. Once you start seeing a breakdown past these levels, so let's just say 2,800 points, which is probably the bottom of this one, or at the very least 2,850, okay, then you know that things are about to get really dark, okay? At least, to a drop down of 2,700 points or way down here about 2,350, okay? So those are the areas that you want to keep an eye on, all right? Talked about, moving averages. We talked about Wyckoff, talked about, watching the monthly open, watching the local consolidation support, higher time frame support. So you can see again, for the most part, candles are just sitting on this monthly open, okay? And this is probably one of the more important things for BTC to hold up. If this level doesn't hold up, like I said, more than likely we might go to 81.20 or lower around 78.50. Okay. All right. I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much, folks, for watching. And I'll talk to you all soon. All right. Come join Cryptosomniac. Hit the technical analysis course right here. And then just message me. If you buy the technical analysis course, message me right here, showing me a screenshot of your purchase. And I'll give you access. Or buy the Advantage program and come trade with us. All right. Hope y'all enjoy, and I'll talk to y'all soon.